Hey there, everyone. We're here today talking chapters 8 and 9 of Lord of Chaos, our deep dive of Wheel of Time. There's some good stuff happening in these chapters, more manipulations. We're talking the weather. We've got Aes Sedai and Whitecloaks for you today. I think it's going
Ew.
to be fun.
No thanks.
Did you say you?
Yeah, we're good. We can just pass on these chapters, right?
No. So thanks for being with us today. I'm Jim. That's Zach. They
Hi,
probably
I'm
know
Zach.
this. Yeah, they probably know this since this is our Wheel of Time threads and people who, this would not be the first episode somebody would jump into, I don't think.
It could be. It'd be weird. I don't know why, but it could be.
It's certainly not for most of our Patreon supporters, so thank you, those of you who support us on Patreon. We continue to super appreciate you and your support. Most of these people also know we usually drink something. I don't drink as much for our episodes anymore, but for Wheel of Time, I still got to,
I
right?
mean, it looks like water.
No, that's over here. I do have water too.
I knew it wasn't water. I just said you could pass it off as. What is it?
It is pretty clear though, isn't it? Smells essence of juniper.
So it's gin.
Yeah, I've got a couple, three little samplers of different gins. So I have a dry gin, just a sipping beverage to go with today. I actually haven't tried it yet. Tastes like gin,
Nice.
but a decent gin.
I did a gin thing the other day. I made a Ramos gin fizz
Hey,
with the egg white and everything, and made the whole foam layer. It was interesting. It was okay. I probably won't make another, but I needed to use up the gin because I don't drink a lot of it, and I had like a shot left in the bottle.
So there you go. Yeah, I don't drink a lot of gin by itself. I do it in some cocktails, but gin can be very overpowering.
Hmm.
What are you drinking? I saw you had something in a cool mug there.
So it's coffee because I haven't had enough of that yet today, but it also has brandy in it. So we're doing something.
Okay. Sounds good. Will clearly help our podcast.
It's definitely warming me up. We'll be fine.
We do like to tend to do some updates on what we're reading, but
Yes.
we're changing up our format a little here. So we'll save that to the end. We'll come back to it. Before we jump into the spoiler room, though, so if you're a first-time reader with us here today, stick around at the end. We'll jump into talking about the other things we've been reading, and then we're going to spoil the heck out of something at the end. But for the rest of this episode here, this is spoiler light. We're not going to ruin things beyond chapters 8 and 9 of Lord of Chaos, book 6 of the Wheel of Time.
Speaking of, can we talk about chapters 8 and 9 of Lord of Chaos of the Wheel of Time now?
Well, let's do that. And again, a heads up. People on our Discord know this already, but some of you may not. We are officially changing our format style. So this is a change. This is the first episode coming out in a new manner where we're not going to give you the complete breakdown details like we've done for over 5 books. We're just going to summarize very tightly. That's hard for me. So my summary might be longer than Zach's.
Oh, it probably will be.
We're going to summarize the key points of the chapter, and then we're just going to talk about the things we feel like talking about from that chapter a little deeper. So I've got chapter 8. Zach has chapter 9. And we'll start with chapter 8 summary, and then we'll talk before we do your summary of chapter 9.
Of course.
Okay. Chapter 8 is called The Storm Gathers. And here's what we can say. We've been having comments for chapters now, heck, over multiple books that something's off with the climate. Now, Nynaeve here is feeling that a really bad storm is coming. Remember, as former Wisdom of Emond's Field, one of her roles was to listen to the wind. That sense of what weather might be coming, and some of those people were clearly just guessing. They were like weather people, but this was the way she was tapping into the power a little bit before. So that sense is speaking to her now, but there's no weather change to be seen. You can't see big storm clouds off on the horizon, but it feels like a storm is coming. Foreshadowing? Could be. The Aes Sedai in Salidar, which is where we're focusing this time in our chapter, they're kicking off their plan for misinformation, or perhaps it's disinformation is the better term, having Logain now up talking to people, telling his story to visiting nobles from far and wide about how he was manipulated by the Red Aja sisters to declare himself as the Dragon Reborn, which he now realizes was just so they could put him up there and then take him down, gaining the glory on look how we saved the world and take down another false dragon. Is this true? To be determined. We get more of Swan and Lyanna play acting that they can't stand each other anymore, which may have some truth at its roots, a little bit, but also that they may continue to work together in manipulating the direction being taken by the Salidar sisters, who honestly are just a bit gullible due to their Aes Sedai arrogance. They can't fathom somebody beneath them would play them. We get a key section with Nynaeve being pumped for information by Lalaine Sedai, one of the Blue Aja sisters. So this is, I believe, the first introduction of Lalaine in here. We will hear more from her. Oh yeah. And her questions, well, she clearly wants to know more about Rand al'Thor and all about the Emmonsfield Five. And she's grinding for details, and Nynaeve's trying to answer, but not tell her too much, but not be disrespectful. Very hard balancing line for Nynaeve, always. This conversation also reminds us that Nynaeve is still trying to heal Stilling, and that she has permission to do so. But no one's taking it seriously. It's like, well, we're humoring you, child, but eventually you'll figure it out. You can't heal Stilling.
Yeah, we'll let you study this impossible thing that people have studied and gotten depressed about, and you will too. But you'll move on.
The chapter ends with Theodrin Sedai, former Wilder, like Nynaeve is a Wilder, suggesting that she may be able, because of their shared experience there, be able to break Nynaeve's channeling block. You know, how she can only channel when she's angry. So she's going to begin working with her daily, and the implication is that may not be super pleasant. Then there's a little bit between Nynaeve and Moghedien, reminding us they still have and are using the captive Forsaken. And at the last of the chapter, the bombshell, as Elaine shows up and shares there's an emissary from the White Tower meeting with the leadership here in Salidar. A red sister named Tarna Fear. And what might those ramifications be? And the chapter ends. What would you like to talk about from those
chapter
events?
8. Let's start with Logain. Because I want to chat a little bit. Up to this point, what do we know about what is or isn't true of Logain's supposition here and what the tower is having said? Clearly, they're not necessarily saying it. They don't have enough information themselves to say it. Their oaths probably would prevent them from saying it themselves. Not because it's a lie, but because they just don't know that it's true, probably. How much do we know about whether it is or isn't true?
You know, this first came about back in... Was it the
Shadow Rising? But it might have been Fires of
when Elaine, or not Elaine, when Swan and Lyanna and Min and Logain were traveling away from the tower. It might have been early in book 5 instead. The Fires of Heaven. But
either way, before this one.
Yeah. And my recollection is that this idea wasn't brought up by Logain. This was brought up by Swan as a possibility. And he leapt at it, but not so much that he believed it, but he could see how telling this story could bring down the Red Aja, and he has no love for the Red Aja.
it's something that to me has always, at least up to this point, felt like something that is very plausible,
Oh yeah.
possibly true.
Especially if they are infiltrated by the Black Aja.
Yeah. The details that are being shared, what Logain is actually telling people while on his short leash, is probably embellished, exaggerated, twisted in a way to intentionally make the Red Aja look bad, take them down, and for the sake of the Salidar sisters, help kind of discredit Elida and her coup.
Yeah.
But I don't think necessarily Logain at least thinks that it's false. He's making it bigger.
He's a tool here. He's being used, but he knows it and he likes it because anything that takes the Red Aja down a peg, who he blames primarily for being gentled, he's happy to be involved with.
And the pieces fit together very nicely in a way that
It totally
is like,
could be.
did Swan have enough information to say, no, that probably did happen? Or was it just, oh, it was convenient and, well, it got let to go too far? Because I think what really, like, we've been led to believe was that the Red Aja didn't create him, but they did know about him way earlier, could have stopped him from being what he became. Instead, they went, let's let him do his thing a little bit first, and then we take him out. And that gives that little bit of wiggle room that lets it be like, no. He was a puppet. Now he's our puppet, but he's our puppet to take down his previous puppeteers.
As a whole, the Red Aja are quite happy to have Elida as the one in charge, because as Elida has risen, so has the Red Aja. And it's not necessarily that the Red Aja are power hungry, but if you have control, if your person has control of the direction of the Aes Sedai, then we can finally do things right in the world. And not be marginalized or shoved aside when things come up and we need to fix something, which
And
they have strong opinions.
To that extent, and with that like reasoning, all of the Ajas are power hungry. Like, not in the sense that they want power for the sake of power, but they disagree on how to do things, and they have agreements within themselves of how things should be done, and typically kind of want that control, with the exception really being Brown. But even then, there's like, if they actually pay enough attention, they have ways that they think it should go too.
They all do. Really. They all do. Okay, so regardless of what they actually believe has happened, the sisters have actively engaged Logain in a system of disinformation. Because either he's exaggerating or he's telling an outright lie that they can't tell, but he can. And they're the sisters are the ones bringing in nobles from all over. This is a way to weaken Elida, and it's one actual active action they are taking, rather than just sitting here in Salidar hiding. They're doing something that will weaken the White Tower.
Active treachery and sedition.
There you go. I like it. So at least they're doing something. But again, I think we sense the energy behind this is Swan. It was her idea originally, and I think it's her and Liana, they're nudges that have gotten the sisters to take this action.
Which is really important, in my opinion, because it shows, Swan and Liana, they're willing to actually take action. Most of the sisters in Salidar are still kind of hedging their bets and taking these half measures, allowing this to happen and facilitating it in how they're like, we're going to let him spread this information, but we're going to make sure that he's spreading this information so that we can control and squash it should the time come. And maybe we don't let him just make Aes Sedai out to be the bad guys.
Although they've made it clear, he's saying very clearly the Red Aja did this, not Aes Sedai. The Red Aja, they're the ones being hurt by this.
And that is them giving some measure of control where they can.
Yeah.
But it feels less like weaponization to me and more like a little bit of damage control.
Now, the sisters in charge may actually completely believe this. Because if Swan has encouraged Logain to tell this story to them in a plausible, believable manner, they may be spreading this story because this is outrageous. And this is why the Red shouldn't have someone in charge of the White Tower. Look what they've done. That's possible.
But the one thing that we do have to keep in mind is that we have no idea which Aes Sedai are Black Aja and which ones are true. So it's also just as likely that some of those who go, how could this? Of course, are Black Aja spreading this further because they see a further opportunity to weaken Aes Sedai in the world.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty. But I think that's enough on Logain for now.
Yeah, let's switch to the weather. We won't have to talk long about the weather.
No.
But okay, it's hot. It's dry. And now there's a storm coming. And this is the first reference to that. Is this escalation? What's going on?
A little bit, especially because I'm like, in my brain, I think it's like the equivalent of October, November now. We are.
It should be
past
fall.
summer.
Yeah, it should be cooling off.
However, we've also talked a little bit in the past about how Nynaeve's listening to the wind ever since the Eye of the World has been a bit off. Not in that it is off in terms of being wrong, but that it doesn't always seem to correlate to the physical weather.
Okay.
Even back as far as the Beltane Festival in that first book, she felt something was off, something was coming. There was a storm. There was no storm, but Trollocs attack.
So it could be bad things coming, not
And
necessarily
are
bad
we
weather.
pairing the weather is weird to, oh, she feels there's a storm coming, so there's an actual storm coming because the weather's weird? Or is it just kind of hiding the fact that there's something brewing on the horizon that is not good?
Interesting. Yeah, could be something more like that. There are all sorts of things. We could speculate this feeling of bad weather, a storm coming could be, but we're not going to be able to tell you about those because this is spoiler light. But there are certainly things we've already heard about in the greater plot line that could be looming. I mean, we certainly know the bit about the Shanshan are out there somewhere. Okay. Maybe it's something related to that. It could be something coming from the White Tower. We're hiding in Salidar, but maybe there's something actually coming, which gets touched on at the end of this chapter. So maybe it's related to that. I mean, there's lots of things that it could potentially be. Maybe the Whitecloaks are coming. No. That's the TV series. Here they're wimps.
I mean, maybe they are. They're not exactly always wimps. They did kind of go through all of Tome and Head torturing people while dressed as other people.
Okay, point. Very good. Other things to talk about in greater depth here. Lelaine. It is significant. We're meeting Lelaine and seeing she's taking independent research action. There's something going. I mean, that's just smells of Aes Sedai manipulations and planning.
This is a moment where I'm like, cool, we see Lelaine. I don't in my brain like harken back to this moment of being significant. And yet, because I don't, it probably is.
Mm-hmm. The specific kinds of things she was asking for, and just the fact that she's going off on her own to pump Nynaeve for information means she's thinking of machinations of her own, stuff she wants to do. She's trying to formulate plans that are separate from what the Aes Sedai as a whole necessarily are talking about and planning.
And this is an important note a little bit, I think, to highlight Robert Jordan's intentionality, because he's told us in previous chapters that Nynaeve, Elaine have had Aes Sedai coming and talking to them, sometimes as groups, sometimes individuals, pumping them for information and different things, and sometimes taking an interest in them, sometimes being very aloof, but still grilling them. But we haven't actually been shown most of that. This is a case where we actually see one of the Aes Sedai come on their own for their own purposes. We've known this has been happening. This is not new. But the fact that he chooses to show it means it matters.
I appreciate that we get that reminder in the midst of this conversation that Nynaeve is still actively trying to heal Stilling, and pretty much the disdain that the sisters look upon it as. It's like, this is a complete waste of time, but you're not going to hurt anything because we know you're not going to accomplish anything. So it keeps you busy and out of our hair.
Have we gotten far enough for us to talk about Theodrin now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I love some of this. Specifically, there's talk about like blocks and how one could have had a block, what they can be different, and what that means, how to overcome one.
Yep.
And Theodrin's story is hilarious to me.
It is pretty good.
Because her block is men. Was. Kind of. Which specifically is just like, it was strong feelings, really. Good or bad. And as far as she understood her association and her block, it was, hey, if I really think that guy's hot, or I really can't stand that guy, then I can channel, as long as he's right there. Either way, if he's just in the middle, if he's just a friend, if he's friend zoned, nah. If it's a woman, I don't really swing that way. Nah. I don't even dislike her very much. Nah. But men, one way or the other, absolutely. So what do? They find one person that she's been more or less sneaking off with. Surprise, surprise, not sneaking off. It's known about the whole time. It was arranged. The Aes Sedai being all sneaky, and while she's still training and learning, is like, no. We're going to subtly introduce you to this guy that we know is just your type. And then he's going to sit in your class. Every day. Every day. Except after a couple, it's his twin sister dressed as him. And you don't know it. Until she undresses. Like, it's not a surprise, it was me. It's like, no, surprise, I take off my shirt. I'm naked now. I'm a woman. Surprise, you're still channeling. There's no subtlety there. For all the subtlety of Aes Sedai and this plan, suddenly it's a sledgehammer to go, no, we're breaking through that block. We already have broken it. We've proved that. Now we're going to prove it to you. Maybe traumatize you a little bit with how much we've been lying to you. But it's funny.
It's very funny. We need to jump into Discord. We have somebody who's actually one of our patrons ready to listen in today.
Hey!
Just audio. We're just jumping in audio.
Hey, hi, hello!
Hey, Carrie. Glad to have you here. We didn't see you were waiting, so we hadn't jumped in.
Yeah, his old man technology doesn't like doing too many things at once, so sometimes his battery drains. Sorry, his computer's battery drains. His battery drains too sometimes.
Batteries just no, my personal battery.
You might need a nap.
Drain these days too, but that's a different story. So we have just been chilling, talking about Theodrin and overcoming her block, which was very good.
Now, as much as I find that entertaining, and everyone who hears that story finds it entertaining, Theodrin probably really didn't find it entertaining in the moment.
No, probably not.
And I think that gives us a little bit of insight into what Nynaeve has awaiting her.
Mm-hmm.
Because Theodrin sees this trickery, this almost cruelty of using one's block against someone to break through it as what worked for her and the way that you get through blocks. So she's interested and wants to help, but it almost is that vindictive, hey, I went through this hazing, I'm going to put you through it now too.
That's right. It's my turn to do it to you now.
And like, it's totally valid and fair that she is one of the most likely people to be able to help get through this block. But I have a really easy time seeing it as she's going to take advantage and get a little bit of fun out of it first. I don't think
I,
she's
I don't feel
vindictive
that about
enough,
Theodrin, but I can see your point.
but especially if it doesn't work the first couple of times or something, this could be something that turns very borderline abusive very fast.
Theodrin totally understands, though, that this is a mental thing. She's lived firsthand through it, that she couldn't channel unless, like you said, a particular type of person was in her proximity. And it was all in her head because when they tricked her to completely believe such a person was there and she's channeling and then discovers, no, such a person isn't there. And look, you're still channeling. Okay, it was all in her head. She gets it. Nynaeve probably deep down still has doubts as to, oh, come on, I want to channel. It's not just in my head. There's something wrong. And without being able to overcome that mental block, it's really hard to break through the block, the channeling block. So Theodrin, she gets it. She understands how Nynaeve can be fooling herself. Does make her an excellent person to spend time trying to help her work through it.
Unfortunately, one of the things that isn't super touched on here um, is that there's a very subtle difference between blocks we've heard talked about in the past and Theodrin's block versus Nynaeve's. And it's that difference between something being like material and physically noticeable. Because you can tell when someone is angry. Yeah. But the line of when is someone angry enough to be able to channel with Nynaeve is very blurred and very
It's when she starts to turn
subjective
green
almost.
and her muscles get bigger.
If only. That would really help. It'd make it easier. Um, with Theodrin, there had to be a physical person there. With other people we've heard about, it's like they needed their specific herbs and poultices, or they needed their special stick because they believed it was their stick. This person used a staff. That's their block. That's where the staffs went.
Stick.
Moraine's staff, it goes way back. Way back. No.
She had a special relationship with that stick. Ooh.
Anyway, we're not touching that one with a however many feet pole. But there are so many different blocks we've heard about that are physically manifested in some way. There are funny things you can do to trick and twist around and show someone something. But it's really hard to show someone that the block is mental in their head when it's just an emotion that isn't tied to a specific kind of thing or individual or whatever. It's all within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if you truly believe that there's something wrong beyond that, no one can really present proof otherwise.
Yeah. Hear what you're saying. All right. This has been a fun topic. Let's move on to just a couple last things. I mean, I don't know that we need to say much about Mogideon. She's just still there. They're still manipulating and using her. She still feels she's better than this, but she's powerless to change it.
This spider's still caught in that web.
Yep. But the Tarna Fear introduction, that's great. Because, whoa, it tells us, okay, Elida knows they're there. They're all safe and secret in this hiding place that they've kept hush-hush and only the Blue know about. No, she knows where you are. And they've been sitting here doing nothing for months, and now there's an emissary coming from the tower, and instantly Nynaeve and Elaine are like, crap, does this mean, they're gonna patch things over and all will be well? Surely some of these sisters in Salidar are here because of solidarity. Others that they were friends with, went, and yeah, you're right, Elida, down with Elida, but we're not super comfortable here. This doesn't seem to be doing anything, and maybe this is the answer. Maybe we can finally bridge our differences, because Elida's the one reaching out. She's come to us. She's humbled herself to come to us. They're having these bad images, I'm guessing, and thinking this is going to be terrible. Maybe this is the storm Nynaeve had.
I like what you're saying, except that I think you're saying it wrong. There are some sisters there that are in Solidarity.
Oh, you waited the whole time. Did you listen to anything else I said?
I listened to everything you said, but it was also sitting right there. I wanted it so bad.
Solidarity. Sad.
You raised me.
I mean, yes, I'm slightly proud. Carrie's proud in the Discord. She gets it. Okay. Any thoughts or comments on this? I mean, surely they wouldn't cave now.
Oh, some of them absolutely would, but I think there are enough of them that are too proud. They've taken their stance and they can't just take it back.
Although perhaps we shouldn't be giving Elida too much credit. Tarna Fear might just be here to say, bow! Okay, the word that wanted to come out of my mouth just now was
was it peasants?
Coarse word that I wouldn't say.
It was not peasants. Was it
no,
bitches?
It also started with a B. I'll go close. Bow, witches, and come
bitches.
back to the tower.
Okay. Well, I don't think Elida would say that, but I feel like she
totally would say that.
Elida is a weird, crass individual without being crass.
Oh, so she wouldn't say the word, but the sentimentality is all in.
Oh, absolutely the sentimentality.
Okay.
But she would consider herself above such things.
But Elida to send an emissary with that approach of, hey, we know where you are now. We're giving you one last shot. Come on back, ask for forgiveness. We will allow you to take some lumps and reform our sisterhood properly.
Well, but let's separate our assumptions here for a moment. There's an emissary from the tower. We said it's an emissary from Elida. They didn't yet. It's assumed if it's from the tower, it's from Elida. However, Rand also got some letters that were from Elida in the tower and Alviarin in the tower. So
we need more information.
Really from? What's their message really about? And what are these Salidar sisters going to do? It's a tense and unsure proposition, but we don't have enough to actually go on yet.
Well said. Well, that is where the chapter ended. And of course, finally, chapter 9 will give us... No, chapter 9 does not give us more information.
No, chapter 9 is a mean chapter for you to have given me. Because you gave me the one with the bad guys. Well, bad guys.
Come on, you like bad guys? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I actually don't mind having this chapter that much.
Give us our chapter 9 summary, Zach. I'm all ears. I want to see how you did.
The one thing that I didn't do was write down the name of the chapter yet. So let me pull that back up.
No, I've got it. It's simple.
Plans.
Yeah.
I didn't have to find it. I knew it. See?
Plans.
Anyway, whose plans? Pedro Niles. Because that's where we're going. We're going into the Lord Captain Commander of the Whitecloaks POV for this. And he's sitting there and he's chatting. Well, chatting is a nice word. Far too nice of a word for the conversation that we're having. As it's not a mean conversation, but it's very business. Between he and his... We're going to say spy master, because that's what everyone knows that this person is. It's not. It's supposed to be a secret. It's not a secret. This is Abdel Omerna.
Omerna.
Names are hard. I'm going to butcher all of these. So they're sitting there, and Omerna is like, hey, I know we locked down the Terabon border. I know we're not letting people through. I know we're just saying, hey, none of that. But what if we let the Illuminators through? They want to come into Amadicia. They want to come and set up a chapter house. I feel like that would be a good thing. We could put a whole bunch of spies in there. You know who likes Illuminators? Everyone. Everyone likes Illuminators. So let's do it. And Petronil's like, I don't like Illuminators. And they don't like us. In fact, they don't like anyone who's not them. This is a bad plan. We're not doing it. And I said no one gets through the border. That means no one. Stop. He chastises his spy master here. But we move past that. We keep going, and we get some other tidbits here and there. We get talks of Matt and Stepaneos down in Ilion wanting to maybe come to some kind of accord with the Whitecloaks, and we also hear some name drops of some other places, some other rulers. We'll visit that if you want to later, including even then talking up in the borderlands, how they're not really as active and prevalent as they have been. They've kind of gone into some seclusion. They're still doing their jobs, but some of them are just like not around, and it's weird. And we still don't know exactly what's going on with that. But eventually, Niall goes ahead and dismisses his spy master, but says, hey, before you go, send in Bulwer, my secretary, because I need to compose a message to send to Matt and Stepaneos, because we're going to have that talk with Ilion. So in comes Saban Bulwer, the actual spy master.
I love this guy.
Because when everyone knows you're the spy master, you're not that good at your job anymore. It's a problem. So instead we get this reedy little guy who actually is good at his job. And we get a lot of the same information a little bit, but a little twisted to be a little bit more recent, a little bit more accurate. And we get Niall going, hey, Bulwer, what are our thoughts on this? Is it actually going to work? Would they actually work with us? Is this a good plan? Yes, no, maybe? What else do we know? We get a couple other tidbits that I thought were particularly interesting. There's a brief mention of Jacob Carradine, and that he's actually doing pretty good work where he is, surprisingly, considering for the rest of this chapter, we've been talking about how all of Petronil's plans have fallen to shit. None of them are working. Everything's gone topsy-turvy, a little crazy. Rand taking Camelin wasn't on the agenda. Okay. But while we're at it, we also are getting reports, apparently reliable reports, according to Bulwer, that Rand is in Camelin and Kyrian and Tyr, sometimes all on the same day. And Niall dismisses it. He's like, no. The Aes Sedai, they've got their sneaky plans. Rand's with the Tower Aes Sedai, and they must have like imposters dressing up as him and all these things. And Bulwer, I think, is kind of like,
I think Bulwer sways him
yeah,
by the end there.
There's something going on here.
There may be some implications.
It's kind of weird. And so we keep going. And finally, the last big thing that they really talk about are the Aes Sedai. Notably, not the Tower Aes Sedai. They already talked about them. They're talking about the ones down in Salidar. Because Petronile knows they're there too.
Again,
everyone
not a
knows
well-kept secret.
Where the secret hideout of rogue Aes Sedai is, and no one's doing anything about it. And people are starting to ask questions about why is Petronile not doing anything about it. And they formulate a plan, a really clever plan, to do almost nothing. Just start a few different rumors to sow some seeds of distrust in Aes Sedai, to show that the schism between these different pieces of the tower is more real, to even put into talks that the Aes Sedai and Salidar are looking to maybe abandon their Aes Sedai ways and come join with the Children of the Light. None of these are going to be super solid rumors on their own, and none of them are going to necessarily be believed wholesale. But altogether, they start to paint an interesting picture that definitely benefits Petronile and the Children of the Light. But our chapter doesn't quite end there, because we have a quick little shift over to Morghese. Morghese still being a very luxurious prisoner of the Whitecloaks. She's not in chains, but she's not allowed to leave. And so she's around. So are our company, Basil Gill, Lamgwin, Talonvor, all those folks. And Morghese has been waited upon by other courtly individuals, some of which take pride in their gossip. Specifically, if they can sprinkle in little bits of gossip about Andor and how Morghese must loathe this or that, especially as it pertains to Rand and other noble houses supporting him. But at the end, we're left with Morghese secretly, privately to us, the readers, sharing that she is not upset by this. She's upset by Rand, sure. She's not upset about what she's hearing, what is trying to be little jabs at her, because the people who are supporting him are the ones who didn't support her. Her best and most reliable houses have yet to bend the knee, and that says something about Andor's potential loyalty still. And that ends our chapter, more or less.
There you go. Now, you said Morghese is captive of the Whitecloaks, but not directly.
No, but like, yes. We can
the
beat
Whitecloaks
around
are
the
real
bush
power in
every time
Amadicia. We know that.
We can beat around the bush every time we talk about Amadicia. Or we can just say King Iolron doesn't matter at all, because he doesn't. And the Whitecloaks run everything, because they do.
Okay. That's true. All right, so what should we talk about a little more deeply here? The Spy Master. Great way to hide your real Spy Master, by having a fake Spy Master who's the real Spy Master. He is a putz. His ideas are so ridiculous. And he is so non-intuitive about discerning what the tidbits that do come to him actually mean. And the man is practically incompetent.
I will give him a bone, though. He's a good Whitecloak, which is wild. And it's not a good Whitecloak in the same sense
in the rightness
that Jeffrin,
and righteousness
Jeffrin
of the
Bornhall
Whitecloaks.
was. But yeah, he believes in that righteousness, but not zealousness. He truly believes the best in the light and people, and they're like, well, surely they would believe us if we just came in and said, the light wills this. He's naive.
But see, he's too clean and proper to be a Spy Master.
For sure.
Yeah.
And yet, it's what you would want out of, like, what you would ideally want out of the Children of the Light's Spy Master. Someone who is like that. Realistically, no, you need someone who does not actually belong with the Children of the Light at all. And that's where you get Balwer. He's more of your, let's hop over to the Song of Ice and Fire. He's your Varys.
Okay, except people knew Varys was up to stuff. To go to another franchise, Balwer is like from Harry Potter. Was it Filch? The caretaker, the janitor, basically.
The squib.
No, what?
The squib.
Yeah, nobody would suspect him of anything. He has no power. He's just that guy. He does that thing. So that's Balwer. He's not even official Whitecloak. He just works for the Whitecloaks. He's a secretary. And yet he's got his fingers everywhere. I love this character.
I will say, the more and more I go just like in fantasy in general, but also just keep reading stories and things that I enjoy in my life as I age, the overlooked bureaucrat who actually has their finger in every pie and is actually doing all these secretive things, I feel is starting to be an overdone trope. But it wasn't here. It wasn't here yet. And it's done well here. Like, it's not always done as well as it is here.
Now, can we get the actor who plays Filch in the Harry Potter series to play this guy? Because he's also in Game of Thrones, and we could get him in all three of these franchise adaptations, and it would be awesome.
I see your point. I'm sorry. I think he's too old.
But this guy is kind of old, is my impression.
He feels 40s to 50s, but in the kind of sense where he's only ever weighed 110 pounds dripping wet.
Which is
This
where
is
I get kind of the old hand wringing.
I think he looks a lot older than he is a lot.
Okay.
Maybe I'm
Alright.
wrong. Maybe he is really old. But I don't think so.
So the plans that they might actually put in place, these are pretty good. Again, we're talking disinformation. Put stuff out there that will diminish the image of Aes Sedai in society, or get people thinking the Aes Sedai are up to things that they aren't. Definitely highlight the schism that's there. I think there was even a hint towards implying that the Black Aja are behind some things, which the Whitecloaks generally wouldn't talk about at all, but we can, plant some seeds.
The
I mean, this is good
Whitecloaks'
stuff.
official statement is there is no Black Aja. Instead, all of them are
They're all
of the
black.
dark. By accepting a Black Aja, we accept that there are good Aes Sedai. And that's not true. But these aren't official stances. These are rumors that they're spreading
Yeah.
and are eventually serving their purpose.
But this is where Pedro Nile shows he's not cut of the same cloth as the random zealot Whitecloak. He's actually an intelligent man with the ability to not just see things his way, but also see through other people's eyes. So he can acknowledge that there are Aes Sedai who genuinely believe they are good people doing the right thing. He can acknowledge that, and then he can use it.
This chapter highlights for me that we've seen Petronile and his plans before, but we haven't really seen them really coming to fruition. And this chapter is highlighting and showing, hey, he's actually really good at what he does. Really smart, not your average Whitecloak. There's a reason he's in his position. But what he hasn't accounted for is that the entire world is changing and breaking. So his plans keep falling apart and not working. And he's sitting here going, how could I have foreseen that this plan wouldn't have worked for this reason? And it's like, no, dude, you're right. Any other time, any other century, your plan would have worked. And you would have won that. But instead, surprise, we can open gateways again.
Yeah. There's another thing I sense that this subtly shows too, though, and that there's another thing Pedro Nile maybe hasn't taken into account. He thinks differently than a lot of his Whitecloak soldiers do. They've attracted a lot of people into the Whitecloaks over time that are not of his caliber. No. And so the plans he's making, the things he's talking about, he can't even share these with his spy master, his real, his official spy master, because the guy wouldn't get it. The guy wouldn't understand. Balwer, okay, he can talk with Balwer, but these things he's doing, these plans he's putting out, he can't tell most of the Whitecloaks he's doing this stuff. They would actually read it badly, and it could go badly for him if that was to come out.
There are a couple that I think are hinted at of having the potential to kind of serve into this role and maybe one day take over. Carradin's one of the big ones of like, he gets it.
And I think Nile sees that in Carradin. He's entrusted him with some extra missions that not the average standard Whitecloak would have been given.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that he's actually evil.
Yeah, that sucks.
But also, it does highlight a little bit of the necessary skills to actually be a good and effective Whitecloak does also lead you to be more likely to be a Dark Friend. Just because you don't have quite the same zealous anti-dark mentality.
Just like with Aes Sedai.
Now, interestingly, the other person that gets name dropped isn't name dropped in the Nile point of this, but during the Morgaze. Because it highlights that in addition to Nile's plans and the Whitecloaks and all these things, they really want to get Elaine and Gawain back.
Yeah, that didn't come up in your summary. I was gonna.
No, I figured it was something we'd go further into, but it didn't strike me as too important.
Uh-huh.
But it also mentions and highlights Galad. And it
We know where
specifically
Galad
points
is.
him out as being, he's up and coming. He's really good at that. Has the makings of a great white cloak. And I think it plants some seeds here of like, he could go places.
He's impressed Niall. He's got his eye on him.
Exactly. And so that's where he kind of is getting name dropped here. We know some things about how we feel about Galad, and Elaine definitely does, and the way that he does things. But then we look at the chapters where he actually had to weigh his different differing opinions on things. Look at Sienna.
He was able to make Niall type decisions.
Exactly.
Yes.
And he was doing not just the bottom line of what Whitecloaks say.
Big picture.
Big picture.
Yeah.
Did it work out? No. However,
well, yes, it did, just not the way he had in mind.
Why didn't it work out as smoothly as he intended? Not really because of a failing on his part, but because of Taviran and the Prophet, this
things
mess that
outside his
Rand
control.
left behind. These things that are age-ending.
You mean the same
things.
sorts of things that are potentially interfering with Niall's plans?
Exactly. So I think that's worth highlighting.
Absolutely. These are good connections. Yeah, I like it. Anything else from this chapter we should highlight? I mean, I think that pretty much nails what I thought was most important.
One of the name drops that I didn't actually say what it is. This might be the first time we hear mention of Queen Tylin.
Nope. We had her mentioned
Did we
the last chapter.
The last one?
She was one of the ones that when they were in Elida's study, looking at the papers, she was one of the rulers that was mentioned by name. So this would be the second time.
We had Murundi and, oh gosh, what's the actual country? Amador? No. Amador is Amadicia.
It's on my map.
It's Ebudar's the city. Altara is the country. And so there's more players getting added to this, more layers that are at least being brought in and mentioned, even if we aren't seeing them quite yet.
Yep. And when, Robert Jordan doesn't put any of this in here by accident or random chance, he's intentional with such things. So when you start seeing names coming up repeatedly, you can count on that becoming more prominent later on. Foreshadowing.
Don't worry, they might not show up in this book.
Nope.
But if you see their name 3 times in 3 chapters, it's like Beetlejuice. They have to appear at some point.
Very good. All right. Good enough? Well said?
Enough said.
I think this was a good format for us. I liked it. So
definitely shorter.
Yeah, a little bit, but we still have more to talk about because we're going to get to that spoiler room section. But before we do that, before we bid people adieu, we want to talk about the other books we've been reading and any other random stuff that we want to connect with. Like, oh my goodness, our YouTube channel continues to blow up these days, which is really fun. Most of those new subscribers aren't necessarily watching this episode soon. If they are doing Wheel of Time stuff, they're in the back catalog and still got a long way to work up to get here. But 837 subscribers at the moment. Yep. That's where we're at. So, remember, it was like less than a month ago we hit 666.
Yeah, like a month ago we were at like 5. No, I'm exaggerating, but it always feels like we are way further than I thought we would ever be, and I am always grateful for it.
Yeah, we're so glad people are finding us and choosing to share in the fun. And part of how they're finding us is all the other things we also read. So let's touch on that. What are you reading right now, Zach?
Let's see. So I finished Babel, which is below me.
Finally! Okay.
I sat down last weekend, I think, or something, and just kind of pushed through the rest of it because I was really enjoying it, but I was tired of still reading that one.
So we can get an episode on that from you sometime soon.
Absolutely. And at some point, I want you to read it so that we can do a magic system episode on it because it's so interesting.
Well, it is on my TBR, but not in the 2024 area. So is it good enough I should be moving it up? I'm reading the first stuff this year, the Poppy War trilogy, that I'm getting to this year.
I think you will enjoy that more than you will Babel.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
there are plenty of people out there who will love Babel so much more.
R.F. Kuang, if anybody listening doesn't know who we're talking about.
I just don't think you're quite the target audience. You are, but not quite the same, I think.
Got it.
I'm probably wrong. Anyway, so I've started reading Turncoat as I'm moving through the Dresden stuff. Gonna finish that off in my
That's a
year
fun
of
book.
reading more actual series. And then let's see, I'm still reading on my phone Tress of the Emerald Sea, but I finished the first in the Farseer trilogy, Assassin's Apprentice.
Okay.
So
and favorable?
I enjoyed it. I think you've given it an unfairly bad rap in
I do need
my
to go
history.
check it out again. Again, my problem with Robin Hobb was not the story, but the style of writing. It didn't connect for me.
And I just sat here, and maybe it was because I did it as an audiobook, but I didn't get that. I was like,
okay,
I'm not raving about this being the best book ever, but why does my dad have a problem with this?
Well, I haven't read that one. Maybe you need to get through these and read the next trilogy. That's the one I struggled with.
Maybe you should have started with the start.
Exactly. I didn't even know this author had other stuff when I first picked up those books. I wasn't a cool content creator yet.
But having finished that, I've moved back over because it's how my Audible credits happen to line up, and so I'm not doing things in the correct order there. And so I'm back to the Mad Adam trilogy, the second book, The Year of the Flood.
Okay.
Again, weird, entertaining, and good, though. What are you reading?
So Gideon the Ninth, right above
you?
I
finished that a while ago. I finished that and then moved on to Assassin's Apprentice, which I read. Was I still reading this when we last time we talked?
Yeah.
Oof, I've been reading fast, I guess.
Well, that's how you can hit your reading goals for January. You got to read fast.
I am at like 5 already.
Nice. Okay, so for me, I finished right over there Jacqueline Druga's My Dead World 5-book zombie apocalyptic series. It was surprisingly good. Very readable. Very much enjoyed this series. The best by Druga that I've had. So, yeah, that was pretty good. And none of the books were long. It's really just one story. Yes, Carrie, I love zombies. She dropped it in Discord. I also recently finished The Bone Hunters, which is right above me. Malazan Book 6.
Notably not Malazan quite about zombies, but kind of.
No zombies. But there are undead creatures. So, yeah, kind of. Yeah, now that I think of it. They just don't eat brains. But that was very good. The best Malazan book I'd read so far. So looking forward to moving on, but taking time to fit some other things in between, such as right beneath me, I'm reading The Dark Forest, which is book 2 of the 3-body trilogy by Sijin Liu. The first book was amazing, and I just did an episode with Amber from The Road of Tarvalin on this first book, which is going to be, the whole series is being adapted for Netflix, which is why I read it sooner rather than later. But fantastic sci-fi. So I really encourage you to read The 3-Body Problem.
It's one that I'm really excited for. I think it was in my list of most anticipated reads for the year, which might have been when you heard about it in the first place.
Maybe.
But I am very glad to hear that it's very good because I'm excited.
I think you'll love it. And then, of course, I'm still reading Duma Key by Stephen King, which I am now slightly over halfway done. I've got to the part where things pick up, according to those who have read it before and really enjoy it. So good. Maybe I will pick it up.
Maybe you'll have easier time picking it up. Yeah.
Okay, so those are the books we've read. Good stuff. We've talked about YouTube. We thanked our patrons before, but I'll thank them again. Like Carrie, thank you for being one of our Patreon supporters. We super appreciate you. Anything else we need to say before we go to the spoiler section, Zach?
I think this is worth noting to everyone who is here, not just those who have finished the Wheel of Time. I'm surprised that you have not used a crash symbol in this episode.
A crash symbol?
Because according to Mom, you've been hitting that thing all the time.
Well, this is true. We had a pipe burst in our garage during 4 straight days of below freezing temperatures, which Portland, Oregon does not get. I mean, maybe one day, 4 straight days, mornings that were in the single digits. It's been nuts. And on day 4, a pipe burst. So all this stuff in the garage is in the house right now, including Zach's drum set, which I wanted to ask you, do you want us to sell it? Are you ever going to take it? We could sell
I
it and send you the money.
probably, I certainly don't have room for it here. And I don't anticipate having room for it anytime soon. So yeah,
But I
it's
can't sell
probably
it
the
soon
best way.
because I'm enjoying hitting the cymbal, man. It punctuates statements and things I want to say. I'm just walking through the house randomly. Psh, it's kind of fun.
I'm glad you don't have any pets, and I'm sure Mom loves it.
Oh yeah. She may have hit it once herself.
You probably deserved it.
Yes, I was so awesome that she hit a cymbal. Yes, I deserve that.
Sure.
All right. That's enough. We're going to move to our spoiler room section. So if you are a first time reader, you won't want to stick around. I know Carrie's here, but she's only halfway through A Crown of Swords. We're going to spoil worse than that. You'll want to bow out now so we don't blow it for you. But
yeah,
you'll have to come back and watch all of our episodes later just for the little last sections to see what we talked about. Thanks for being here, Carrie. Let me run the spoiler room special.
The spoiler room. And just once, you did it.
I finally, after these many episodes, figured out how to use the tools.
Until they update it and change them all.
Bite your tongue. Okay, so what do you want to spoil? What do I want to spoil? We got to roll to see who gets to spoil first.
Okay. You've got a chance.
17.
You're going first. I had a 12.
Nice. Okay, I want to spoil from your chapter where we're talking about Balwer and Pedron Nile and his machinations and stuff, and how this is all giving us those first hints of how badly this is going to end up going for Pedron Nile. Because he's doing things that go beyond what a whole bunch of the lower Whitecloaks would think is appropriate and proper for Whitecloaks to do. He has a bigger vision. He can think beyond, but his organization has attracted narrow-minded zealots. And he's going to get overthrown because he's not taking the actions they think he should, because he has these plans in place that need time, and he's never going to get a chance to live them out. It's not all that much longer. Dude's going to bite the dust because he's going to be killed by one of his lower guys. And then things will go badly for Morghese, because Niall's thoughts on how to use Morghese are very different from Valda and his plans. And now you said great things about how Niall was looking at Galad. And Valda is going to end up looking at Galad very differently. And at first in good ways, but they're going to have a schism later, and it's going to come down
call
to
it a schism. Yeah.
It's going to come down to the same issue. Galad sees the world the way Niall could, and Valda can't. Valda has his own agendas and his own beliefs, and what other people think, crap on that. They're wrong. I'm right. My agenda, and that's all. Yeah.
I mean, you did a big spoil there. You in a very roundabout way eventually went, hey, Galad's the new Lord Captain Commander.
I didn't say that.
No, I did.
Say
because
that.
It's no spoiler, and we all know
this. Is that your spoiler?
No. I just want to talk about Balwer. I want to talk about him, and I want to be a little bit confused, just a little, about where his morality actually lies with any of his job, because he's doing the work, and he's doing the work for Pedron Nile. He's doing it well. I don't know how much of it he believes in and how much he doesn't. It almost feels like he believes in Pedronile, but not in the White Cloak agenda.
Yes,
Because
100%.
Balwer is going to go on to be instrumental to saving Morghese, move on eventually to become Perrin's main sideman spy master,
Yep.
which is a whole thing in and of itself because really Fail is enough of a spy master by herself. Perrin doesn't need that, except he does need it at certain times. And Balwer's really good at it. It definitely calls those questions of loyalty and morality back into question when we have the Perrin v. Whitecloaks thought process. And it's like, well, where does Balwer's loyalty really lie? And I think he does have a sense of what he personally believes is right in the world and what he's going to work towards. And I don't think he's working against that by working for the Whitecloaks right now. But if he had stayed with Valda in charge, he would be.
But he couldn't stay with Valda in charge. He has his opinion of what he is willing to work for and support, and in his own way, it's towards what is the greater good.
It's an interesting point where I feel like he finds people that he believes in. He doesn't find specific avenues or paths. He knows that his job gets messy and he has to be morally gray sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
He's comfortable with that. And so instead, he finds someone that he believes in and believes that they are right, and he will follow them 100%. He does that with Pedronile. He does that with Perrin.
He ends up great with Perrin. I love what he adds to that whole scenario, and Perrin knows he figures out eventually what
Mhm.
kind of guy Balwer is, and that yes, he can benefit from him because Balwer will do things and learn things that Perrin never would have been able to because it's just not Perrin, and he works with it. Okay.
Balwer has the loyalty for Perrin that I wish Aram had.
Mm. Aram is
Whereas
no Balwer.
Aram has the zealotry
Yes, Aram could
that
have been a White Cloak.
the Whitecloaks have that are beneath Pedronile.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting
Wow, we're
parallel
doing
there.
so many spoils here now, Zach.
It's the spoiler room. At this point, I'm just talking about things with full open spoils, but it's as they pertained to this episode.
Oh, so funny. Yeah, but we've dropped more in this one than we normally ever
Look,
do.
we changed the format of all of our Wheel of Time episodes from now on. I'm changing the spoiler room.
Okay, well, there you go. But that is a good place to stop. Yes,
Yeah.
fun episode. I like this format. I hope our viewers did too. I think you enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Very good. I just figured out what I'm looking at in your room. I totally didn't realize the
What, this?
placement before. So your old spot is simply to your right.
Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking you were back at Rachel's desk.
No, her desk
But then
is
I
still
realized,
over
wait, there's a
there.
door there. No, that's not where the door would be. Yeah, yeah.
There's a door there. I even do still have a book reference, but it's Rachel's book reference. Can
Yeah,
you
I don't
place
know
the
that
book?
book.
You do know the book. You just
Do
don't
I?
recognize it. It's The Great Gatsby.
Oh my goodness. Really?
The Eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. It's the billboard that you drive past that symbolizes God looking at everything,
Wow. Dude, I read that in high school.
witnessing it. Yeah, I was forced to read it like 3 times for different classes. It's kind
And
of
now
hard
it's
to
your
forget at
favorite
that point.
book.
No, but it is
Not
one of
exactly.
Rachel's.
But it's a good, there's value in the book. It's not a bad book.
I
It's a little
can't
dated
like
now.
it. I've been forced to read it too many times.
And as we have heard on an episode these people may or may not have heard, one of the best ways to make you hate a book is to have it assigned to you. Actually, that episode hasn't dropped as of right now, but by the time this episode drops, it will have been out there. Yeah.
Well, alrighty
Okay.
then.
Well, that's good. I'm not gonna play our outro stuff because I need to update the outro. Like I updated the intro. The intro was fun.
I liked it. There's books.
There is books. We all like books. And of course, I'm showing off my whole back set area now. bump my table there.
Yeah, there's no green screen today.
Not today. Not for Wheel of Time episodes, because I got a lot of Wheel of Time stuff to show off.
Fair enough.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Just keep waiting.